A plate of avocado toast sits on the table. To the left, a man takes a bite. The balance reads 0. It is the classic image used to explain away a generation's struggle. Then, the expert walks into the frame. He looks at the toast, then at the empty account, and shakes his head. The narrative that brunch is the cause of poverty is not just wrong, it is an insult. It masks a deeper, systemic failure that has been building for decades. This is not about the price of bread or the cost of coffee. It is about an entire generation being told their lack of wealth is a personal failure while the ground shifts beneath their feet. The expert turns to the camera, his expression hardening. We are going to look at the math that the headlines ignore. We are going to strip away the distractions and look at the real numbers defining the current economy. Forget the toast. Start looking at the ledger. Meet Dave, born in 1962. Meet Ryan, born in 1990. They stand side by side, yet they inhabit different worlds. Dave holds a physical pension document in front of a house he owns. The paper is thick, a promise of security printed in ink. Ryan stands a few feet away, holding only a laptop bag. He is positioned in front of a rental sign. The difference is not a matter of effort, it is a matter of timing. Dave secured his foundation when the rules of the game were fundamentally different. He built his life on a trajectory that has since been dismantled. Ryan works just as hard, perhaps harder, yet his base is temporary. A rental agreement provides no equity. A laptop bag contains only the tools of his labor, not the fruits of his long-term investment. The expert stands between them, a silent witness to the divergence. As he gestures, a single-dollar bill slips from Ryan's pocket and floats away, caught in a current he cannot control. This is the reality of the modern gap. It is a structural shift, not a personal one, manifesting in the simple difference between holding a deed and holding a key to a rented room. The expert taps the air, and a graphic materializes between the two men. It maps the trajectory of home prices from 1985 to 2024. In 1985, the average home cost $82,000. By 2024, that same benchmark has surged to $420,000. The line on the chart climbs aggressively, a vertical spike that defies gravity. Then, a second line appears below it. This one tracks average salary growth. It moves forward, but it barely lifts off the horizontal axis. The gap between these two lines is not just empty space. It represents the crushing weight of modern financial reality. The expert moves his hand, highlighting the widening chasm. Ryan watches as the numbers shift. The cost of shelter has decoupled from the value of his labor. Every year, the price of a home leaps, while his earnings remain anchored to a baseline that no longer sustains the market. The financial pressure is immediate and visible. The math does not lie. It tells a story of a target that is constantly moving further away, leaving a generation to struggle against a tide that only rises, while their ability to swim against it remains static. The expert gestures, and the floor beneath Ryan begins to shift. A treadmill emerges, its belt rotating backward at a steady, relentless pace. Ryan begins to run. He exerts maximum effort, his legs pumping, his breathing heavy, yet he makes no forward progress. He remains fixed in place, staring at a house that sits just yards away. The door of that house opens with a simple turn of a knob. Dave walks toward it, his gait calm and unhurried. He reaches the threshold, pauses for a second, and steps inside. The door closes behind him, locking with a definitive sound. Ryan continues to sprint, his pace quickening as he tries to close the distance. Sweat beads on his forehead, but the gap remains identical. The harder he runs, the more the treadmill belt fights his momentum. It is a cycle of intense exertion that yields no ground. The expert stands to the side, observing the contrast. On one side, a simple step forward leads to security. On the other, a frantic, constant movement results in absolute stagnation. Ryan is not failing because he is slow. He is failing because the very surface he runs upon is engineered to keep him from the door. The treadmill belt snaps to a halt, throwing Ryan off balance. Before he can recover his footing, a heavy, cold sound fills the air. A massive iron chain, forged from thick, dark links, drops from above and slams onto his ankle with a bone-jarring thud. Each link is engraved with a single, aggressive figure, $37,000. It is a student debt anchor, and it is bolted to his movement. Ryan tries to step forward, but the chain drags behind him, biting into the floorboards. The expert steps forward, pointing his stylus at the base of the chain. He gestures toward a projection screen that flickers to life. It displays a graph showing the trajectory of $37,000 invested at age 22. The line curves upward, accelerating into a massive mountain of capital. Then, he highlights the cost of that debt. By paying off interest instead of investing that principal, Ryan has forfeited a total of $500,000 in potential compound growth. The expert looks at the chain, then at the $500,000 figure glowing in red. The weight of the debt is not just the $37,000 on the ankle. It is the $500,000 that never had the chance to exist. The expert shifts his attention to a fresh, glowing surface. He taps the air, and two massive charts materialize, hanging in the light between Ryan and Dave. The first chart tracks productivity, its line climbing at a sharp, aggressive angle, showing how much more the average worker produces today compared to 1,979. The second chart tracks wages. It is a flat, horizontal line, barely hovering above the baseline for 4 decades. The expert takes a red marker and draws a vertical line between the two charts at the current year. He drags the marker downward, tracing the empty, cavernous space that has opened up between what people create and what they are paid. The gap is not a mistake. It is a structural void. Ryan watches the red line extend, realizing that his increased output is not being reflected in his bank balance. It is vanishing into that widening space. The expert taps the top of the productivity line, then the bottom of the wage line, and shakes his head. The system has doubled its output, but the reward for that effort has remained static. He turns to the camera, his expression hardening as he points to the chasm. This is the math of the modern era. Work harder, produce more, and watch the value of your labor drift away into the distance. The expert does not pause. He pivots from the national wage gap to the palm of Ryan's hand. He gestures at Ryan's phone screen, which suddenly projects a hovering, translucent menu into the air. A series of vibrant subscription icons pop into view: streaming services, cloud storage, meal kits, and niche apps. Each icon glows with a soft pulsing light, and beneath them, a running total ticks upward, $340 a month. Ryan stares at the number, his thumb hovering over the screen. As the expert watches, the icons begin to flicker and break apart. From the pockets of Ryan's trousers, shimmering gold coins start to drift upward, caught in an invisible current. They are sucked toward the subscription icons, vanishing into the digital void the moment they touch. The expert tracks the flow with his finger, showing how these small, automated recurring charges function as a slow-motion leak. It is not just about the monthly bill. He points to the empty space where the coins used to be. Every dollar spent here is a unit of potential that will never reach an investment account. Ryan tries to swipe the icons away, but they regenerate, locking into place. The drain is constant, silent, and relentlessly efficient at keeping his balance near zero. The expert clears the air, swiping away the subscription icons to reveal a horizontal timeline stretching across the room. He anchors 2 markers, one at age 22 for Dave and another at age 32 for Ryan. As he taps the markers, golden lines begin to arc upward, representing the growth of their investments. Dave's line starts early, rising with a steady, compounding curve that accelerates over the decades. Ryan's line begins a full 10 years later, forced to play catch-up from a lower starting point. The expert walks the length of the timeline, his hand tracing the growing distance between the two trajectories. The gap widens with every passing second, turning from a mere separation into a chasm. He stops at the final point of the projection, highlighting a massive, glowing figure. $1.8 million. Ryan stares at the number, his face pale, as the reality of that lost decade hits him with the force of a physical blow. The expert points to the empty space under Ryan's curve, emphasizing that this is not just money lost, but the sheer, crushing weight of time itself. Every year Ryan waited. He effectively burned hundreds of thousands in potential growth. The expert turns to the audience, his gaze sharp, making it clear that in the game of compound interest, time is the only currency that truly matters. The expert sees the paralysis on Ryan's face and moves to break it. He snaps his fingers, and the glowing timeline of lost millions vanishes. In its place, he produces 3 heavy, matte black cards, which hover in the air between them. He flips the first. Kill the debt. It glows a sharp, warning red. He explains that debt is not a lifestyle, but a parasite that must be severed before any growth can take root. He flips the second. Invest early. This one pulses with a steady, deep green, a direct counter to the delay that cost Ryan his potential. Finally, he reveals the third. Stop chasing the outdated millennial milestones. This card flickers, showing images of picket fences and corporate ladders, then dissolves into dust. The expert steps closer, his voice dropping to a low, intense register. He tells Ryan that the old map is useless because the terrain has shifted. Chasing the ghosts of a previous generation's success is exactly what keeps the chain around his ankle heavy. Ryan looks at the 3 cards, then back at the expert. The confusion in his eyes begins to clear, replaced by a cold, sharp focus. He realizes that the system is not broken for everyone. It is just rigged against those who play by rules that no longer exist. The expert holds the cards out, waiting for Ryan to claim the strategy. Ryan reaches out. He grips the edge of the first card, then the second. He does not hesitate. He turns his attention to the heavy, rusted chain still locked to his ankle, the one weighing $37,000 in debt. He plants his feet firmly, bracing his weight against the floor. He does not pull, he swings. He brings his heel down hard against the lock mechanism. The metal groans. He strikes again, harder, his jaw set in a line of pure focus. The iron links rattle against the floorboards, a harsh, discordant sound that echoes through the room. On the third strike, the lock gives way. With a final sharp crack, the chain snaps open and falls away, pooling on the floor like dead weight. The air in the room seems to lighten instantly. Ryan stands tall, his movements no longer hindered by the phantom drag of his past. He takes a breath, his gaze shifting to the investment interface. He taps the screen, initiating his first deposit. The numbers begin to climb, slowly at first, then with steady, rhythmic confidence. He is no longer running in place. He is finally moving forward. The expert does not celebrate. He simply watches the chain remnants fade into static. He gestures, and the air between them ripples, projecting a massive, translucent spreadsheet that fills the width of the room. Ryan looks up, his eyes tracing the columns of data. The expert taps a final cell at the bottom of the ledger. A number expands, glowing in sharp, clinical white. $2.53 million. It hangs in the air, pulsing with a rhythmic, low-frequency hum. The expert walks to the center of the display, pointing to the specific decade of lost compound growth that birthed that figure. He breaks down the math. Every year of waiting was not just a pause, but a structural subtraction from Ryan's future. The room goes quiet. The number does not change. It does not fluctuate. It remains a permanent, immovable monument to the cost of inaction. Ryan stares at the 7 digits. The realization hits not as a sudden shock, but as a heavy, cold clarity. He sees the gap between where he stands and where he could have been. The expert stands beside him, his expression unreadable, as the final sum remains the only light in the room, casting long, sharp shadows across the floor. The expert steps forward, blocking the view of the glowing ledger. He wipes the air with a single, sharp motion, and the numbers vanish. He looks directly into the lens. The time for waiting for systems to shift is over. The economy is a machine that does not care about individual outcomes. It follows its own momentum, indifferent to personal struggle. He holds up one hand, fingers spread. The math is not a suggestion, it is a tool. You either hold the tool, or you are held by it. He points to the viewer, his gaze unwavering. Stop looking at the milestones of a previous generation. They are ghosts. Build your own. Control your own variables. Calculate your own risk. The screen flickers, the colors bleeding into a deep, stark black. The channel logo pulses once, twice, then holds